Welcome everybody. It is Thursday and it's time for our peaceful eating Q&A. Hi, I'm Vanya Fatidis, and every week I come and spend some time with you here on Facebook answering questions that you've submitted. Now, all of the questions that are submitted come anonymously to me, so I don't know any background about any of the questions. So keep that in mind as I respond. And if you have sent me a question and it hasn't answered what you haven't answered you sufficiently, please send me another one and just let me know it was you and you have a follow-up question. The next Q&A is going to be on Tuesday, and then I'm going to take a break after that for a couple of weeks, and I'll be back. Gosh, I don't actually remember, but I'll be back in January. So I apologize for not wearing a Christmas jumper. It's not my style. I do not own one, and I'm not wearing any Christmas festive wear. Let's see what I pull out the hat on Tuesday. Maybe I might get one of my daughters to dress me up. We'll see. All right, so today I have got 4 questions. And I'm just going to quickly run through the topics, and then I will get into the detail. The first one is really asking, how do I eat sweet foods without being compulsive about it? Then there's one about, in fact, the next 3 are about food rules, because most of the questions I think that are being submitted this week are from people who are doing my short course, Peaceful Eating over the holidays, which is really to help particularly around Christmas and the festive season. And last week's lesson was all about dropping the food rules. So these 3 questions, the one is a food rule about eating sugary foods that only contain 10% or less of sugar, a food rule about not eating too many nuts, and a food rule about not eating fast. All right, so now you've got the heads up about what the questions are. Let me look at the detail. If you're there watching me, it would be really great if you just said hi, because I'm not on Facebook right now. This is being broadcast through StreamYard. And so I just want to make sure that it's working. I can see that there are a few people watching. So just be good to know that actually everything is working. Oops. All right. Let me get started. So the first question here is, at night, I get overwhelmed. Hi, Viviane. Thank you. It's nice to see you. All right. At night, I get an overwhelming need for sweet things. I could eat a box of chocolates on my own. Then I feel so guilty and weak for doing it. I search the house for something sweet. I've eaten jam by the spoonful or cake sprinkles. I've been trying to lose weight for years. I'll be good all day, eat proper healthy meals, and then it's all undone in the evening. How can I overcome this? Hi, everybody. Thank you for saying hello. It's nice to know that there are people out there. All right. So with this question, what I'm seeing is the most important thing that I'm seeing here is your desire to lose weight and your concern about your weight. Because what you're trying to do is be good all day and eat so-called healthily. In other words, foods that are not the foods that we have been told will make us gain weight: biscuits, cake, chocolate, candies, whatever. And maybe other sort of foods. Maybe it's even carbohydrates. I don't know if you're actually eating things like, bread, potatoes, pasta, rice, grains, things like that. So that's the first thing that I'm seeing here, is that because you are concerned about your weight and worried about your weight, you're trying not to eat those foods. So there's several things that could be going on. The one is that maybe you're not actually eating enough during the day. You think you're being good, but actually, I don't know if you're counting calories. I hope you're not. If you are, please try to stop doing that. And you need to make sure that you're eating sufficient amount of food in the day. Now, what you have been taught to believe is sufficient probably isn't sufficient. If you're trying to stick to a certain calorie amount that is a sort of diety calorie amount, this is going to be setting you up for um, needing to eat more later on. And because you're trying not to eat those foods, um, and potentially you're hungry, you are going to eat those foods by the evening. So, two things to watch out for. The one is make sure that you actually are eating sufficient food, and that you are hopefully having a good balance of, the macronutrients, carbohydrates, fat, and protein, because that will help to keep you nice and steady and satisfied during the day. The other thing is to actually eat some chocolate in the daytime. Incorporate it with your lunch, incorporate it with your afternoon tea, maybe if you have afternoon tea or a snack or something, and incorporate it after your evening meal. I mean, I'm not suggesting you necessarily need to do all of those things, but um, not keeping those foods away into the when I'm bad time of the day or into that kind of box, but incorporating them into your normal eating will help reduce your desire for them later because you're not depriving yourself early on. So make sure you're eating enough food. Make sure you're comfortably full and you feel satisfied. And make sure that when you're hungry, you do eat. Incorporate those foods into your daytime eating, and really try to let go of the worry about your weight, because all it's doing is driving the cycle, and it's just not helpful. It keeps you stuck in diet mentality, and it stops you from being able to really tune in to what it is that you want to eat and what it is that you need. So I hope that that helps. Okay, next question. By the way, if you're watching and you have a question, you can pop it in the box. By all means, I'm happy to answer anything. It doesn't have to be submitted in advance, but I'm just starting with those ones. All right, here's the next question. My main food rule is not to eat anything with more than 10% of sugar. I believe it is useful for me, but if somebody brings a cake, I become less peaceful around it. What do I need to be thinking in such cases? All right, so this person must be on my peaceful eating over the holidays course, because last week was the lesson on dropping the food rules. And there was a worksheet there about really asking you about the food rules, asking you, how does it benefit you, and what is it costing you? How is it getting in the way of you being at peace with food? So I'm assuming that these next three questions, they have been through the process of realizing that actually this food rule is not working for them. Although this person is saying, I believe it is useful for me. And so I'm curious to know why you think it's useful for you. What are you telling yourself about consuming sugar or about consuming over a certain amount of sugar? Um, how do you even work out what the percentage of sugar is in something? Um, unless I suppose you're reading labels. And what impact is that having on you? You're saying it's useful to you. I'm really curious about why you think it's useful. My guess is you think it's useful because you fear sugar and you think it's bad for your health or it's going to make you gain weight or both. And I want you to know that neither of those things is necessarily in and of itself true. Of course, if we are eating food consistently above our energetic needs, then yes, we are going to be storing extra weight. But that could be anything, actually. It's not necessarily related to sugar. Um, so really have a think about why you think this is useful to you, and also how is it costing you? Because I used to do the same thing, by the way. I also had a rule about only eating things under a certain percentage of sugar content. And it made me obsessive. I was constantly reading labels. I felt stressed around, for example, somebody bringing a homemade thing that I couldn't check or I didn't know how much sugar was in that thing. And then inevitably, what would happen with me is if I said no to that thing and I didn't eat it, um, maybe later that day or the next day or something, I would binge on high sugar foods, um, or I would just feel miserable because I was missing out on something, or I would feel very virtuous, like, I had a halo around my head over here because I was being a good girl and I was so self-controlled and, to put myself in a bit of a superior position to everybody else, all those poor sods out there who couldn't, have the same level or didn't have that same level of control as I did. So, um, ultimately, it didn't help me feel peaceful or grounded. And I could see how it was keeping the obsession going. So, what could you be thinking instead? Um, you could be thinking, I will eat foods that I want to eat. I can eat whatever I want. That's a replacement. Not that we're trying to replace a rule with a rule, but just a different thought that you could be having is, I will eat whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. My intention is to eat to satisfaction. My intention is to eat what satisfies me and to eat to a point of satisfaction. Those are some alternatives. All right, let me see. So Viviane says the problem is once you start eating chocolate, it's hard to stop, leading us to think that if you want to lose or not gain weight, it's easier to cut it out for a while until you crack. Well, exactly the point. So the reason why it's hard to stop is because you're not giving yourself unconditional permission to eat chocolate. If you had um, really, really deep inside of you unconditional permission to eat as much chocolate as you wanted to, you might eat quite a bit of it for a little while, but at some point particularly if you have a lot of it around and you can see it's not going to run out and there's no way that you can eat all of this chocolate that's in the pantry or the cupboard or whatever, you will settle down. It kind of gives you that you can relax into, actually, do I want this? And actually, how much feels satisfying to me? And I've never had a client who has given themselves unconditional permission to eat in a safe way, yeah, with support, and has not found the freedom that I'm aware of, by the way, that I'm aware of. There comes a point at which you feel relaxed around it, and there are mince pies. Okay, do I feel like a mince pie? Yeah, I wouldn't mind a mince pie. Or actually, no, I don't really fancy a mince pie right now. End of story. What is a great antidote to the restrictive mindset is abundance, creating an environment of abundance. And I know that's super, super, super scary if you are terrified about weight gain, which a lot of us are. And that's why we're all here, right? Because that's how we got here. Being terrified of weight gain, being terrified about being on the heavier side. All right, let me just have a quick look. So Sarah says, I think that I will eat just one. But you see, that is exactly the problem, Sarah. Thinking I will just eat one. That's already a restriction. What if you asked yourself, I will eat whatever it takes for me to feel satisfied? And then you shut down distractions. You're not eating with the telly, you're not eating with scrolling through your phone, you're not eating while you're watching something, but preferably not reading anything either. This is not a rule, by the way. It just is a way to help you to check in with yourself and to tune in to yourself. So, what if you were to say to yourself, I'm going to eat whatever that thing is, mince pie or chocolate or whatever the food is, crisps, to a point of satisfaction when I'm noticing I'm not actually enjoying it anymore. Or I've got to a place where I'm full and I want to stop, even if it still tastes nice. You can carry on, but you might also decide to stop at a point of fullness. So I would say that might help, just having that slight switch of thought around that. It does take some courage, Viviane. It does take some courage to do this, but it works. It works. Okay, let me move on to the next question. I believe that I eat too many nuts. I don't want to introduce the food rule regarding this, but I can't come up with an idea what to think instead. All right. So my question to you is, how do you know you're eating too many nuts? How many nuts is too many, and how do you know that's too much? My guess is that you've internalized some ideas about high fat foods like nuts, and your mind is saying you should only eat. I mean, I remember being on diets where I could eat 7 almonds, and I'd like count out my 7 almonds. That's all I would eat as a snack. And not 8 almonds, not 10 almonds, not 4 almonds. I would have the 7 no matter what. So I'm curious to know how you know that what you're eating in terms of the nuts is too much. Um, and what I would suggest you do is try to listen to your body. Are you getting any feedback from your body that it's too much? That however much you're eating in any one go, what's going on? Do you feel ill? Do you feel, what's the feedback? So that's what I would use as a guide, as a guide for eating in all circumstances. What is my body telling me? So perhaps you could ask yourself instead, or exactly as I was just saying with the previous one, is I will eat as many nuts as feels satisfying to me. And do what you can again to minimize distractions and just stay with the experience of eating. Um, I'm going to sort of slide into the next question, which is about a rule about I shouldn't eat fast. So is don't eat fast a food rule, and if yes, how to replace it? So just thinking about the nuts or thinking about anything, look, slowing down is going to help you to notice your satisfaction, to notice your fullness. But it's not a rule, and you really should try not to make it a rule, but rather an intention. It's like my intention is to just slow down a bit so that I can notice what's going on here. It's very difficult to be aware of what's going on for ourselves if our attention is drawn out to the TV, to the thoughts, to the phone. There's so many demands on our attention. And it's actually a super helpful practice, not just with eating, but with anything, to do one thing at a time, to practice single tasking, not multitasking, because it doesn't actually help us, multitasking. So, um, yeah, it's not a rule, and perhaps you can just set it as an intention to just slow down a little bit. And you could even toggle, you can slow down for a few bites. And then if you want to, you can speed up for a few bites and then slow down for a few bites so that you're not kind of forcing yourself in any way. But be curious. Notice what that's like for you and what happens. All right, let me have a quick look to see if there are any More questions. Good point about distractions. Enjoy rather than just shoving in cake in cake hole. Yeah, enjoy. Food is to be enjoyed. I mean, it's wonderful if we can enjoy food, and aren't we so privileged to be able to do that? To have enough and to have the variety and all of that so that we can enjoy it. And let's make the most of it and enjoy it. Why eat behind our own backs? Shovel it down so that I think part of the reason why we will shovel food down is because we want to eat behind our own backs. We want to sort of do it quickly before we can stop ourselves. But if we really give ourselves the permission to eat what we want and to eat as much as we want, and we do our best to just stay tuned into ourselves, then we're going to be just fine. Okay. So, Sarah, why are chocolate chip cookies the hardest for you? Why do you think that that is the case? What do you believe about them? Maybe you can try what I've just suggested. So, one of the people in my membership group, so these are people who are on my longer course, the How to Live a Life of Peace with Food course, and they're now in my monthly. So we just meet monthly, and I give them a lesson every month. And one of the women was talking about mince pies, and when we were at that point in the course where the lesson was about unconditional permission to eat, she just found that that was just too far of a stretch for her at that time, and that's totally fine. You need to go at your own pace. And so she decided today that now's the time actually for her really to start practicing giving herself unconditional permission to eat. And so she's experimenting now with mince pies. And what she's going to do is buy loads of mince pies and put them all, or as much as possible, in as big as possible, an airtight container, so that you're not sort of watching how many packets have I eaten, how many in one packet, how many, oh, I've eaten more than one packet, I've eaten two packets, oh my goodness, all of that. If you have it all in a big container, then it's going to be hard to keep track, and you throw away all the packaging, preferably recycle it if it can be recycled, and then you have more in stock so that when the level goes down just a little bit, you replenish it, so that you are not allowing your mind to run away with counting how much you're having. All right. So Sarah says, I'm trying to make food my ally, not the enemy. Yay. Okay. And they are my favorite, the chocolate chip cookies, and I can bake anything else and stay away from it, but not a warm cookie. Good, we'll enjoy the warm cookie. It's fine. Now, Sarah, you've said here food addiction is such a hard balance. I've got some great news for you. As far as we know, the scientific evidence does not point to food addiction being a real, you know, scientifically proven thing. I know people talk about food addiction, but actually it's not the same as other substances like alcohol or narcotics or cigarettes. It's a different pathway in the brain. And um, what it is, the thing that's similar is the compulsive aspect to it, but it is different. So I want you to know that sugar is not addictive. In a sense, it's addictive because it's food and it keeps us alive. So in that sense, we're all food addicts and we have to be, otherwise we die. But in the sense that I think you're talking about it, it isn't actually a thing. But what there is compulsion. And for most of us, not all of us, but for most of us, the compulsion dies away when you let go of diet mentality, you let go of your fear about your weight, and you come back into your body and start taking your cues from your body for eating. That doesn't mean only your body because, yes, sometimes, you want a certain thing because it reminds you of something, or your grandmother made it and it gives you a good memory or good feeling, or it's somebody's birthday, you're not hungry, or it's not even somebody's birthday and you're not hungry and you just feel like a certain thing. All of that's fine. The bottom line is giving yourself unconditional permission to eat what you want, learning to listen to your body's cues and untangling the diet mentality and letting go of your concerns about your weight. Those things massively reduce, if not eliminate, what looks like food addiction. Hello, Kathy. Oh, it's so good to see you. Well, to see your message. Love hearing your wonderful words again, reminding me to be curious and mindful about how I'm feeling as I'm eating. Oh, it's so good to know that you're there, Kathy. I hope you're well. Um, all right. Are there any more questions anybody has? I'm just going to have a quick look. Oh, good. I'm glad that's helpful, Sarah. All right. It doesn't look like there are any more responses or questions coming through from the anonymous, question thing. So I guess that's all. And I hope you have a great week. So those of you who are taking the Peaceful Eating Over the Holidays course, you'll get your next lesson on Saturday, and it's all about eating. Um, so you know how to do that, but I will give you a few tips around that as well. So have your questions for me. It's going to be on Tuesday next week because I'm going away for Christmas. So I thought I'd be here on Christmas Eve, but I'm not going to be, and I have no idea what the Wi-Fi is like. And besides, I'm not taking my computer. So it's Tuesday next week. I hope to see you here. And thank you for being here, everybody. Bye. See you then. Bye.